with the internet, it's easy to figure out what to do. Knowing what to do isn't the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It actually might be part of the problem because you have so much information overload at this point, and the problem isn't what to do, it's how to do it. And a great coach is the person who's going to help you figure out how to do it for yourself.
Welcome to Goodbye Hangry. Learning to live a life that's happy, healthy, and full, one bite at a time. I am your host, Audra Budenseek.
Hello and welcome back to Goodbye Hangry. My name is Audra and I am your host. And today I have with me again Daniela and Michael. Thank you for being here, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Or afternoon, or whenever you're listening.
That's
evening.
true. That's true.
It's morning for us, and it is a cold morning in Tampa. Unusually
45
cold.
degrees this morning.
And tomorrow's supposed to be
Chilly.
colder.
Yeah.
My sister bought me a winter coat. It's like rated for negative 20 degrees Celsius. And I thought, wow, I'm only going to be able to wear this like when I go home. But I've worn it the past couple of days, and thank you, Nikki. Because
It's right here.
yeah,
On my chair. Nice
very
and
squishy.
It's very
Yeah.
thick.
Winter coat ASMR.
All right. Today we're going to be talking about the good qualities of a coach. And a great trainer is more than someone who can run you through exercises and then be done with you for that hour, half hour, however long you work out with them. A great trainer will also be someone who is a coach. So a coach is someone that will guide you through the process and also educate you along the way. Your coach plays an integral role in your changing process. So I want to start by seeing if either of you have had a great coach before and what made them great.
Yeah, I've had several coaches actually. I'd say, well, not like necessarily specifically a coach in this first example, but like my dad, I would say coached me in a lot of things professionally when I was very young, but through actions, not necessarily through words, which I think is important. But in this type of setting, it could be a little bit different. But even like, I remember one of my actual first coaches that I had, I guess it was probably my third basketball coach I ever had, was in middle school. And he was my favorite coach that I ever had, mainly because he led by example. So like if we had to run, he would actually run with us. If we messed up, he was quick to correct us, but if we did well, he was quick to tell us we did well. Like it wasn't lopsided. He was very balanced in his way that he coached, versus the coach before him was very just like only saw the negative and only told us like that's
How to
bad,
be
that's
better.
bad, that's
Yeah.
bad, that's bad. Oh yeah, constantly trying to tell you to do better. But he was very balanced in his approach. So, and then I've had business coaches, and I got a lot of examples I could talk about, but it depends on how many you want, I guess.
I'm cutting you off.
Okay. Excellent.
I was
That
just
was a
about to
great
be like, all of them. Please keep talking.
talking.
Don't ever come over to me. Thank you.
But no, this has nothing to do with a good coach. Well, I guess technically because you talked about your dad, but I just love your dad. I love your dad. He's somebody that, like, even if you're in the worst mood and then you get around his dad just has this like special quality to him. He just makes everybody feel so good whenever they're around him without even trying. Your dad is just like,
He needs his own show.
he does. Peter, he needs his own show for sure. He's just so like Mr. Rogers-y, but in like I don't know how to explain him. Anyway, he's great. Great father-in-law.
Great.
What about you, Daniela?
When I think of a great coach, it is actually my high school volleyball coach. He didn't play favorites, which I really appreciated. He gave everyone ample opportunities. I went to a high school where, because it was an arts high school, we didn't really have a sports department, and we had to team up with another school. And so everyone just made the team. There wasn't audition. So when I was a sophomore, I was on JV and I was the captain, but he just saw so much potential in me that he would bring me up to varsity and bring me to games and even put me in. Like it wasn't me just sitting there on the bench, like trying to learn by watching. He would put me in and have me learn from experience, and just always like celebrated, you know, the successes as well as consoled us when there were losses and things like that. But I mean, because of him, it definitely led to me being scouted for college and for club after high school. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
I would say for me, I had a great coach when I was in gymnastics. One of them. She was so great. Like, she was very encouraging, which I thrive on. But she was also very loving. Like, I knew she cared about me. So whenever we had tough conversations, I trusted her that she was coming from a good place. So she could tell me things, and I knew that she was saying them to help me. And I didn't take them personally. I took them as like pretty much as like advice. So it's hard to like hear these things from people, but when you know that the person that you're hearing it from is coming from a place of love, you accept it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that's good.
I think too, as trainers, especially owning our own businesses for a while, we have people that'll come in and we hear horror stories about other trainers and coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And many times we hear people, and sometimes those experiences, those bad experiences that those people have had were so bad that it made them hesitant to find or work with another trainer or coach. Like, that's how bad it was. It completely put them off. And while it's important to talk about what makes a coach great, I think it's equally as important to talk about what makes a bad coach.
Mm-hmm.
So have either of you guys ever had bad experiences with a coach?
You want to go first on this one?
You can go first.
Okay. I mean, I would say to give a more, I guess, an older example, not older as in farther away, but closer to my current age. It's always tough, I think, in these situations because bad coaching isn't always necessarily apparent. It's not obvious. Like, obviously, we hear horror stories and things like that, but it's also not always obvious that the coach isn't necessarily, and I guess, I don't know, bad could be maybe the wrong word, but I was in a situation once where I had a coach who, instead of like helping me with my specific needs or strategies or trying to figure out what I needed to do next and where I needed to go, it was constantly just basically recommending another book or recommending another course or recommending, like, he wasn't doing any of it. He was just like, oh, I did this and it's really good and it's really awesome and this is what I learned from this. And that's not really good coaching. Like, obviously, he was coming from a good area, but it wasn't necessarily like good coaching. He was bad coaching. It had nothing to do with what I needed or what I was focused on. It was more just like that was his limitation or understanding of how he should help, I guess. So it was a bad experience on my end, but it's not something I necessarily go tell everyone because it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I had this horror story of an experience. But I do think that it's something that can be confusing when it comes to, well, do I have a bad coach? Do I have a good coach? Whatever it may be. So that I would say that that's probably my best example for a bad coach, except for like, middle school, high school stuff.
What about you, Danielle?
Oh, I have a horror story.
All right, excellent.
Bring it on.
Kept it balanced.
So I went to a dance studio for many years. And I eventually made it onto the competition dance team. And it was my first year in it. I was 9 years old. And we were doing a jazz routine to Zoot Suit Riot.
Zoot Suit Riot.
Riot. Yep.
I don't even think I know that. But anyways, continue.
What? Anyway, so in the beginning of the number, there were these 3 pairs, and I was part of one of the pairs, and we had to do this trick that I was so young that I don't even know what the name of it is called, but it was basically one girl would like bend forward so their back was flat, and the other girl would then flip to line their back over and do like a cartwheel with their legs
Over
Mhm.
your back.
Yeah. So we were practicing the number, and at one of the times we ran through, both of us just leaned too far forward, and the girl flipped over and landed on the floor. And the teacher, instead of being like, hey, that's okay, like, I noticed both of you were leaning forward, so you just have to make sure that you're both very, very level. She comes over and screams at me, if she breaks her arm, I'm going to break yours. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's
Mhm.
intense.
Don't worry, I stayed at that studio for like 2 more years after that because my loving grandma said, but you're almost there to get your 10-year award with them. And I said, she's bullying me.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
wild.
so that's like the horror story that sticks in my brain. But yeah, she definitely played favorites.
Mhm.
I think because her daughter and I were so similar in like size and height and level of dance and everything like that, and we were always like next to each other in routines and stuff. I don't know if she just like took it out on me. I don't know. It was really weird, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you never know why people act the way they act necessarily,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. She this is just like a side story. She was actually originally asked by, what was it, TBS, to be the studio for Dance Moms,
Wow.
and she said no.
Oh,
Mistake.
Well, or maybe it was good. She says, she said
yeah,
no.
that's true. That's
So,
everyone
yeah.
would have seen her true colors.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yup. Yep.
TV loves that though, so I don't know.
I mean, Abby did end up in jail. So,
Oh, I don't know anything about
yeah, the studio that Dance Moms was ended up about, she ended up in jail.
Wow.
the yikes. I didn't know that.
Well, I have a bad experience with the coaches. Another one of my gymnastics coaches. And it wasn't as bad as your story. He was for sure a bully. And because of him, like, I quit one time. And then we were in the process of moving location. So my dad was very active and involved in it. So he was still helping them transition to the new location and prep everything for the grand opening. And this was the time when there was a break, when they gave the gymnasts some time off because they were moving equipment and stuff, so they couldn't even practice anyway. But during that time, I felt like free. Like I had this breath of fresh air, and I was like, okay, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to go back. So my dad asked me if I could come help him move some stuff in the gym, and I was still close with like my friends and stuff, and a bunch of us were going there to help. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go. And he convinced me to come back. And he was like saying this to me, like, I am so hard on you because I think you're great and you have potential, and I'm just trying to push you. Come back, please come back. So I ended up going back and then ended up quitting anyway because he was just like a bully.
Mhm.
Like he worked on the idea of the thought that you push people so far, but not in a good way, in like a very like fear mongering way. Like only focused on your mistakes, made you feel terrible about them, and just try to use fear as a motivator. And yeah, that works sometimes, but it's not something that you're going to be able to use long term. He had like, that was the only thing he used. He was a bully. And so I never wanted to go back. Like I felt terrible. Like I didn't. And I think sometimes like even the worst of the coaches coach in an abusive way, like emotionally. Sometimes I've seen like physically abusive coaches, which is absolutely mind-boggling. But and I don't think they realize that that is how they're coaching either, though. I think honestly they believe they're helping you, but seeing those things in a coach and realizing like this is not okay is really important. So today I wanted to talk about 5 qualities to consider when looking for a coach or a trainer. And the first one is you want to find somebody who's knowledgeable. That seems obvious, but it's actually not that obvious given social media these days. Everybody and their mom and their second and fourth and 17th cousin is a coach or a trainer. You get on Instagram and people think like, I work out, I have a great bod, I'm a coach or a trainer all of a sudden. Or I lost 50 pounds. Good, that's amazing. But they think that just because they had that experience, they can now become a coach or a trainer as well.
Do keto.
Yeah. It's just like, but that's not how it works. Like
Right.
if you lose 50 pounds, yeah, you know how to lose 50 pounds for yourself, but there's so many other pieces. There's like physiology and like how your body works and nutrition and so many other factors that play into it that it worked for you, but that's not going to work for everybody. So finding a trainer or a coach who is knowledgeable is really important. Just make sure they know what they're talking about and they're just not somebody who thinks like I have the social media platform and I'm just going to all of a sudden be a coach.
Yeah, right. And along with that is always learning too. You want to make sure you find a coach that wants to learn more information. Just because they may have some certification doesn't mean that they're ever going to be done learning, because as we've seen over the past 30 years of weightlifting and training in the gym, that science progresses and so does training, and you want to make sure that they're always learning and wanting to learn so that they can teach you new information that they find.
Yeah. There's a quote that says, the only thing I know is that I know nothing at all. And it's because there's so much information out there. There's a wealth of knowledge, and you have to be humble enough to realize that you don't know everything. And if you really want to be the best and you really want to help your clients, you are always going to be trying to learn more to help them in a better way.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the coach's angle, we tend to think that information is finite. So we wait and wait and wait and wait because we think we're going to know more, or we're going to think we're going to know everything eventually. But, I mean, you're never going to know everything. So I think that, you're better off finding someone who's eager and willing to learn than someone who touts around like they know everything.
Yeah, and I think, too, if you find a coach or somebody who's, like, super cocky, too, and arrogant, yeah, they may know they may know a lot about one thing, but you can come in there and experience something else, but they are still they're arrogant to the point where they're hyper focused on themselves and what they know, that they just keep touting the same things to you instead of like working with you to help you. So it's more about like them and their knowledge instead of directing you and helping you in that way. So yeah, knowledge can go both ways. You can be super arrogant or you can be open to learning and helping in that way. But that's a perfect transition to quality number 2, and that's you want a coach or someone who is going to work with you, because you are the expert in your own life and your coach is an expert in what they know. And so working with the coach is about joining the two worlds together in like this perfect, beautiful harmony.
I don't know anything you just said, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So a coach's job isn't to tell you what to do. That is never going to work for you. So if you have somebody who's just like spouting off and telling you, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. Yeah, you know what to do. The problem comes in is that you do not know how to do it. So your coach's job is to bridge that gap for you. It's to take their knowledge, and instead of just telling you what to do and expecting you to do it and getting frustrated when you don't, your coach's job is to bridge that gap between where you are and what you know and how to do it and how to live your life and place those pieces in your life to where it works for you, because everybody's different. So if I tell somebody to do one thing, it might be easy for them to do and incorporate in their life. Whereas if I tell somebody else to do it, they don't do it. And if you're focused on yourself and the advice you're giving as a coach, you no longer focus on the client and helping them move forward.
Yeah, I agree.
But Michael, your story, this reminded me as you were talking of this point, because you talked about an ex-coach of yours that would tell you to read books and take courses. And he was just telling you what to do. Like, he wasn't telling you how to do these things. Like, even if you did read that book, like, if you then came back to him and then you guys discussed those pieces together and how to do it and how to incorporate these things, because it's easy with the internet, it's easy to figure out what to do. Knowing what to do isn't the problem.
Mhm.
It actually might be part of the problem, because you have so much information overload at this point, and the problem isn't what to do, it's how to do it. And a great coach is the person who's going to help you figure out how to do it for yourself.
Well, I think along those lines is it's very, very, very rare that people understand that they know what to do. Like, a lot of times people will look for a trainer or a coach because they're like, well, I just don't know. I don't know what to do. Well, technically with the internet, like you said, you do know what to do. It's not necessarily just about finding someone to tell you how, though. Like you were saying, it's more about showing, right? Like, empowering you to take the step on your own instead of just writing down a plan and then giving it to you and having you follow it. Because
Well, I think that's the same case. So writing down a plan is telling them what to do, but teaching them how to do it, because I can give you a plan
mhm,
and it might work well for you because you're disciplined and you're the type of person who's just going to do what needs to be done. But for instance, if I were a client and I gave myself the same plan I gave you, I'm not as disciplined. So
mhm,
the how is more about figuring out your specific needs as an individual.
mm,
So instead of telling like what to do, even a plan, I think, is telling somebody what to do. A coach would be working with you and saying, hey, we know these things about you. We know these things about your personality. And instead of trying to fight yourself all the time and make yourself somebody you're not, let's take a step back and learn to work with yourself and figure out how you can implement these things in your life to where it works for you, because it might not work for Michael. It might not work for me.
mhm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I think with that too is helping clients find the why as well, because like you said, clients, they know what to do in order to lose weight, and in some cases they may even know how to do it, but a lot of people need the why. And so us helping them find the why is really important. Actually, what really stuck out to me, maybe that was last week that happened, but we had a client that asked for book recommendations to find out about clean eating and why she should do it, because she understands that she should be doing it, but she wants to know the why. So that just really stuck out to me, and it came to mind when we were talking about this, is the why is really important as well.
Yeah. So having a coach who will work with you and figuring out all these pieces to help you move forward and reach your goals, pretty much.
Yeah.
Quality number 3 is you want a coach who is balanced. So somebody who is compassionate, so they hear your struggles and they're compassionate with you, but they are also motivating. So they're not somebody who's going to hear these things and then let you remain there. There's somebody who's going to hear these things, understand where you're coming from and the emotional baggage that you may be carrying, but then figure out a way to help you move past it, move forward, and move on. And every client is different too. So the same idea that we talked about in quality number 2 is that they're going to work with you, and a great coach will get to know your personal balance as a client and adjust the way they coach to meet you where you are. So it's more, coaching is completely focused on the client and meeting them where they are and being that balance for them and figuring out their personal balance and working with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Like, coaches have to be like a chameleon.
Yeah.
They have to blend in with their surroundings and match the person they're with.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great coach, because like we mentioned earlier, everybody is so different. Your experiences are so different. So even pieces of your personality might be the same. Like, you're disciplined and this person's disciplined. their perspective and experiences in life will change the way that you need to coach them, even though they have those similar personality traits too.
Mm-hmm.
Quality number 4 is that you want to find somebody who is honest. So honesty is really important. Change is very hard. Like wanting change in any area of life, so losing weight or reaching like a professional goal, it's going to be difficult. And you'll need somebody in your corner who's willing to have those tough conversations with you. And that's what I was talking about earlier with my great coach, was that sure, she was very encouraging, and and she knew that I thrived off of that like positive reinforcement and those words. But she also knew that and I knew too, that there were a lot of ways that I needed to improve. And she was honest with me and pointing out these things about myself that I didn't see. And because she was coming from a loving place, I could accept her honesty. She wasn't trying to degrade me or make me fearful. She was telling me these things to help me in a way that she knew would actually help me grow.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
Quality number 5 this is a big one. You will feel better after you see them. So if you leave, so like when I would leave gymnastics classes, I would feel terrible when I worked with that one trainer. When I worked with that one coach, that guy, I would leave feeling so bad about myself. Like that is a big red flag. If you ever I wouldn't say if you ever, because people learn and make mistakes and have challenges in life. But if it's like a common theme that that when you leave, you feel bad, your coach is probably coaching you in a toxic way in some form. So that's a major red flag.
I really like that one, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that as a coach, even in a tough situation, you should be empowering them to not only feel better, but also feel good about what they've done and where they're headed. So I really like that one.
Yeah. They're basically hiring a trainer to improve their lives. So they should leave feeling improved, even if it's just something as small as their mood has been improved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be degressing.
Yeah.
I think if people feel better, they do more.
Mm-hmm.
When they do more, they feel better again, and then because they felt better, they do more, and then it's just this,
Endorphins.
Yeah.
constant growth.
It's also like when you talk, if you think about it too, when you talk to yourself in a negative way and you shame yourself and you degrade yourself, you don't feel good. Like, yeah, you can use that to motivate yourself for a short period of time. But if you use that as a motivation, you're always going to fall backwards and digress.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same way. If your coach is using that form to motivate you and you're leaving discouraged or shamed or in any way worse, and this is a common theme, like when you leave, you feel this often, that is a major red flag. That's not going to help you. You need to either have a conversation with them and see if they can evolve and help you in a way, or if that doesn't work, definitely you need to leave. You need to find another coach, because that type of interaction and that type of coaching can be damaging long term too.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that you recognize it early and you put a stop to it early will help.
Yeah, I think it's hard enough, like with all the garbage we usually have in our own head.
Mm-hmm.
Let alone if you feel like you're taking on more garbage from, just the interaction itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that can be not scary, but super misguided.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think especially, The Biggest Loser has really, I feel like, kind of put like this negative shadow over the fitness industry. It's
Do they even play anymore? I don't even know.
I hope not. Gosh, that show was terrible.
So. I don't think it does.
It was so unhealthy, what they made them put their bodies through. Everything about it was so wrong. And it made people's perceptions about losing weight completely wrong too. So it kind of effed everybody. And as a trainer with that show, people would come in, a lot of times I would hear it. I want you to be like Jillian Michaels. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. I'm telling you, no, you don't.
So you want to leave crying every day?
So I had one girl was adamant. She was like, "You're too nice. You're too nice. Be like Jillian Michaels." And there was one time that she wanted to give up, and I was like, "Do it." That's all that happened. I got stern, and I said, "No, do it." And she yelled at me, and I was like, "Okay, this isn't working. I won't do that. I won't do that again." But what Michael said is that you are already mean enough to yourself. You do not need somebody else to be mean to you. That is not going to help you. That is only going to make you worse. You need somebody who is going to help you get out of your own head, who's going to improve that mindset for you and push you forward. You do not need a Jillian Michaels. You need a cheerleader. You need somebody who's going to love you and come from a loving place and help you grow by pointing out the ways that you can be better and showing you these things about yourself that you don't know that is actually sabotaging your progress. But because they're coming from a loving place, you're going to accept it differently. So
I will say too that I think that the industry in general has shifted, though. I mean, obviously, Jillian Michaels is a well-known name, but I don't think as well-known as 10 years ago. I
yeah,
just don't think that's, I think
Yeah.
the industry
very-
itself is just shifting
God.
away
It is.
from
Yeah.
that. But anyways,
I mean, it didn't help them that how many of their contestants ended up gaining back so
Yeah,
much
I
of
mean,
the weight,
it's-
I think
if
like
not
98%
more.
of
Yeah,
them.
like
yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's really just because they didn't learn.
right.
I mean, they
exactly.
had people cooking for them. They had people giving them the right food. They had work out for 6 hours a day. I mean,
which is insane.
just
Like
not-
you cannot maintain that.
I think it'd be a lot of fun, but it's not sustainable.
I think it's fun in like an athletic performance
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
way
yeah.
and
I see what you're
pushing
saying.
yourself out of your comfort zone and pushing yourself in that way. But the people on the show were needing a lifestyle
Yeah,
change.
I
They
agree.
weren't needing this athletic performance type of
Mhm.
training. That
Yeah.
wasn't necessary. Like that would be good for like kids who are learning how to play football or like a camp or something like that. Yeah, that kind of thing is good for that. But for somebody who's just needing to be healthy, it's wrong.
And also, it's good for people who are used to that kind of active lifestyle. For someone like you, of course you'd like it because
Yeah.
you're used to being active and you're used to eating healthy and being on a really good tight schedule.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
someone who goes from sitting to working out 6 hours a day and
Yeah.
completely
Can
changing.
you imagine how sore they were?
Oh. I don't know how they did the workouts the next day. How would they be
Yeah.
able to move?
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
good times.
Like you were there.
Great times, guys, on The Biggest Loser. Great times.
I know. I'm just thinking about like how sore, and then I'm like thinking about the times I've been the sorest, and I'm just like, yeah, I bet that was rough.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I think one other thing that I want to mention before you wrap up, assuming that we're almost done, is as the person going in to get coached, I think you also have to know yourself well enough to know what your boundaries are or what you're ready for, essentially. Like if you're not ready to apply, then maybe the first step to having a coach is just accountability to show up.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know that you're only ready to show up and you're not really ready to leave and apply, you have to have that expectation on yourself, and you need to communicate that with your trainer. Like, hey, I'm really just wanting to get started. I'm not ready to take on the whole thing, but I need to start.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times people start something expecting a certain result or a certain change from the coach, and the coach obviously gets frustrated because that isn't happening, and then the client starts getting frustrated because that isn't happening. But then when you really dive into it, none of the application outside of the gym or the workout time is being applied.
Right.
So I think it's just, coaching is a good balance. I mean, it's like you said earlier, you know what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. So if a coach tells you, like, this is what we need to do, this is how we need to do it, and you're like, oh, I'm not ready for that, you need to speak up. You
Mhm.
can't just, okay, well, see if I do it.
Right. I think that is a great episode too, would be to talk about like how to be a good client. Not a good client in a way of like being obedient and listening and just
Mhm.
no, like how to be a good client in a way that it turns into like a teamwork.
Yeah,
Coaching
absolutely.
is really teamwork between you and your coach.
Mhm.
It's figuring out and problem solving things together and figuring out what works for you. And sometimes knowing how to do that well as a client to help your trainer work with you, that's really important too. Knowing those things and how to be a good client in that way. So,
Yeah. For sure.
all right. Well, just to recap real quick, the 5 qualities to consider when finding a coach and trainer. So these are great. These are things that will make a great coach and trainer. Quality number 1 is they are knowledgeable and always learning. Quality number 2 is that they work with you. They bridge the gap between what you should do and how you should do it. They are balanced. They are compassionate yet motivating, and they adjust to meet you where you are. Quality number 4 is that they're honest. They come from a loving place and they're able to have tough conversations with you to help you grow. Quality number 5 is that you feel better after you see them. You should never feel worse, especially like if it's a reoccurring feeling, like you leave often and you feel that way. That is a major red flag. So you should feel better after you see them. And those are the 5 qualities to consider. Thank you for joining us today. If you would like more information on the show or about how to get started or working out or any of that stuff, we have an amazing community of supportive women on Facebook. It is a private Facebook group, so you just have to request to join. Just search for us by searching for the Fit Effect Movement, and we will approve you. We also have a contest currently running to win free memberships. So if you're local to the Tampa area and you want an opportunity for free coaching and workouts, go ahead and join the group to join the contest as well. And we look forward to meeting you. Thank you for joining us, guys. Until next time, bye.